The reporting is included by PRB in its annual report. Mr. Speaker, sir, gender equality at PRB has vastly improved over the years, with managerial positions which were previously held by male staff are now held by female staff. To date, there are 49% female and 51% male staff for established positions. For unestablished staff, there are 18 male and 1 female staff due to the nature of work. This team is involved in repairs and maintenance of PRB properties. Mr. Speaker, sir, the operating income for PRB in 2016 was $4 million as a result of increase in rental flats from 1,343 to 1,553 after the completion of Rewai flats. In 2016, 2 housing projects were commissioned in Savu-Savu and Kalambu. In Savu-Savu, 48 units were developed at a cost of $3.8 million, while 36 units were developed in Kalambu for a sum of $2.2 million. Mr. Speaker, sir, PRB is currently constructing 36 units in Simla Lotoka, which is fully funded by the Fijian government. This is expected to complete by the end of this year. Mr. Speaker, sir, we have heard from Honorable Tumbuya many times, as well as from Honorable Nawaikula in the past, and it continues like an old record, that this government has done nothing. And that's his favorite line, that this government does nothing. So today, let me tell him what we have done. In last 6 years, total government grant to PRB was over 16 million for capital projects and rent subsidy. PRB has to maintain its asset. General maintenance work was carried out on Vakatora, Nondamu, Kalambu, Charles Street, Mead Road Estate, Levuka, Tuatua, and Kia Estate. In addition, PRB concreted Rewai Estate car parking area to increase the number of car parks for its residents. Savu-Savu flats were provided with grills. The area was fenced and a walkway was made for the tenants. Construction of rock lining and hall upgrade was carried out in McFarlane Estate. For Kalambu flats, drainage upgrade work was completed. Mr. Speaker, sir, PRB, in its effort to provide better services to its customers, has invested in the installation of CCTV cameras and has plans for new projects. New projects are planned for Newtown and Rewanga, which will add close to 358 flats. Honorable Tumbuya mentioned about the merger of Housing Authority with PRB. There are a lot of benefits by doing that, and it is important for me to brief the members about the future direction for PRB. The operational measure of Housing Authority and PRB, as I mentioned, will bring about many advantages, not only in saving costs, but also provide access to funds and new technology. This measure is in line with the recommendations made in the 2011 National Housing Policy Framework. Mr. Speaker, sir, there are certain services carried out by both organizations that can be consolidated. For example, customer service, finance, human resource, credit management, and information technology. Housing Authority can provide additional service in legal, internal audit and risk, and land and housing development. It is not prudent for PRB to engage in construction of rental flats on land given by Housing Authority when the expertise lies with Housing Authority. Based on economies of scale, the cost of construction can come down if Housing Authority builds rental flats that can be managed by PRB. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Ministry has also taken a lead role in identifying and introducing potential business partners with new technologies to work with these 2 institutions. The next step is for these institutions to engage with appropriate partners that will bring in new technology and innovative financial models to increase the housing stock. And I definitely agree with the Honorable Voka that no country in the world has provided homes to their citizens. Generally, every country tries to look after the vulnerable population, and that's what we are doing here. And I also agree that Housing Authority, PRB, or Ministry of Housing cannot provide the housing solution. We need to depend, or we must rely on the private sector. And that's what this government is doing. If you have heard the budget which was announced by the Honorable AG, not only last year's budget, even year before, there were a lot of incentives given in the housing sector, not only to the first home owners, but also to the private sector, so that they can come on board and start building these apartments that we are talking about, strata apartments. So the government is taking appropriate measures at every step, and we are mindful of the fact that housing is a basic need, and we need to work towards that. But as you mentioned, that Honorable Tubia mentioned that there are certain people who are still staying in the PRB flats. I agree. For some people, PRB flat has become their permanent home, and they've been living in that flat for the last 20, 30, 40 years. Unlike Korepita program, where a family can live only for one generation and they have to move out and start looking after themselves. But in PRB's case, that has been the norm, where people continue to live in the flat, and sometimes in one bedroom, there are 14, 15 people living in that flat. So we need to change that. Mr. Speaker, sir, PRB's role is to assist those families who take the first step towards home ownership by providing them subsidized rental flats and helping them save money to build up the deposits needed for home ownership. Unfortunately, we don't see this happening. Instead, in some flats, we have come across cases where families who have been subsidized by the government is abusing the extra money they have on hand. And that's why we see a lot of social problems in number of PRB flats around the country. People have excess money, and then they indulge in drinking parties and so forth. The PRB case in Mead Road, I did the thorough analysis of the case, and what I found was the young lady who was given the flat, when this lady was given the flat many years ago, she was barely in her 30s, and she has been living in that flat, and today she's about 58 years old. So you can imagine that she was not able to accumulate her deposit and move out. So she continued living there. She had her children, and now she's got her grandchildren. So this is not something that we are encouraging. We are trying to curb that, and this is the reality that we have. Mr. Speaker, sir, on IFC projects, IFC has stepped in to help Housing Authority to build strata apartments. The work was progressing very well, and some of the preparatory work is complete. Unfortunately, due to COVID-19, we could not progress the work further. And the main reason was that consultants and technologies had to come from abroad, and because of the travel restrictions, we could not proceed with that. So we are hoping that once the travel situation improves, we'll be able to commence with IFC project as planned. But besides IFC, I mean, there are other local investors who are keen in developing strata apartments. And they have come to Ministry of Housing. Even I had some meetings with the private sector, They're very keen to go ahead with it. Some of them are already in the planning stages. One good example is Roops. Roops they're also building strata apartments. The other bigger companies who are also involved, or they have engaged consultants to explore the possibility of putting up strata apartments. So every effort is being made from all directions to build the housing stock in Fiji. That's all I have to say, Mr. Speaker, sir. Thank you.